I have launched rockets into space. I have built electric cars that changed an entire industry. I have sent satellites around the Earth. I have stared into the face of bankruptcy twice, and I did not blink. I have been told I was crazy. I have been told I would fail. I have been told that my dreams were impossible. And none of those moments, none of them, scared me as much as the moment I looked into her eyes and realized, this is the woman who is going to change everything. Not my company, not my net worth, not my vision of the future, me. She was going to change me. And I want to tell you about that moment today. Because it did not happen the way you think it did. It was not dramatic. There were no fireworks. There was no orchestra playing in the background. It was quiet. It was simple. And it was the most terrifying and beautiful thing I have ever experienced in my entire life. Let me take you back. Before that moment, I was driven. That is the word most people use to describe me. Driven, focused, relentless. But I want to be honest with you today, because I think honesty is the foundation of everything meaningful in life. Before that moment, I was also lonely. Not lonely in the way that people feel when they sit alone in a room. I was surrounded by people, engineers, investors, executives, journalists, reporters who wanted to interview me, critics who wanted to destroy me, friends who believed in me, but lonely in a deeper way. Lonely in the way that a man feels when he has a vision so large, so audacious, so seemingly impossible, that he cannot find another human being who can truly see what he sees. You have to understand something about me. From the time I was a child, growing up in Pretoria, South Africa, I was different, not special, just different. I read encyclopedias for fun. While other children were playing outside, I was sitting in libraries devouring books about physics, about philosophy, about the nature of the universe. My mother, May, used to say that I would disappear into books, and it felt like she had lost her son, even when I was sitting right next to her. My childhood was not easy. I will not pretend it was. There was pain in my early years that shaped me in ways I am still discovering today. There was bullying. There was isolation. There were moments when I genuinely questioned whether I belonged in this world at all. But through all of that darkness, there was always the light of curiosity. I wanted to understand the universe. I wanted to understand why things worked the way they did. And more than anything, I wanted to do something that mattered. When I came to America, when I arrived with almost nothing, when I worked my way through university, when I started my first company, when I sold Zip2, when I started X.com, which became PayPal, through all of it, I was chasing something. I thought I was chasing success. I thought I was chasing impact. I thought I was chasing the future of humanity. And I was. I genuinely was. But there was something else I was chasing, something I did not even have the language to describe at the time. I was chasing connection, real, genuine, unfiltered, vulnerable, human connection, and I did not know how to find it because I had spent my entire life learning how to be strong, how to be resilient, how to push through pain, how to never let anything stop me. Nobody had ever taught me how to be open. And then I met her. I'm not going to give you a fairy tale. I'm not going to tell you it was love at first sight, because that would be a lie. And I do not deal in lies. The truth is more interesting than that. When I first met the woman who would become my future wife, I was not looking for love. I was not ready for love. I was in the middle of one of the most intense periods of my professional life. I was building things. I was solving problems. I was running on 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night and consuming an ungodly amount of caffeine. My mind was always going, always calculating, always processing. And then she said something to me. It was not a grand statement. It was not a declaration. It was just a question. A simple, honest, completely unexpected question. She looked at me, not at the billionaire, not at the entrepreneur, not at the man on the magazine covers. She looked at me and she said, but are you actually happy? That is it. That is the question that changed my life. 4 words. Are you actually happy? I remember the exact moment. I remember what the room looked like. I remember the light. I remember the way she tilted her head slightly, waiting for my answer with this expression on her face that was completely free of judgment. She was not asking to challenge me. She was not asking to impress me. She was asking because she genuinely wanted to know, and I opened my mouth to answer and nothing came out. For perhaps the first time in my adult life, The man who always has an answer, the man who can talk about rocket propulsion and neural interfaces and sustainable energy for hours without stopping. I had no answer, because I realized in that moment that I had never truly asked myself that question. Not really. I had asked myself, am I building the right things? I had asked myself, am I solving the right problems? I had asked myself, am I moving fast enough, working hard enough, thinking big enough? But had I ever sat down in quiet honesty and asked myself, am I happy? No, I had not, and she saw that. In that silence, that long, uncomfortable, revealing silence, she saw something in me that I had been hiding from myself for years. She saw a man who had everything the world defines as success, and who had never stopped long enough to ask whether any of it was bringing him joy. Now I want to be very clear about something. This is not a speech about weakness. This is not a speech about abandoning ambition. This is not me standing here telling you that rockets and electric cars do not matter anymore. They matter. They matter enormously. The mission to make humanity multiplanetary is perhaps the most important thing I will ever do with my time on this earth. But she taught me something that no engineering school, no business school, no amount of professional success could have taught me. She taught me that strength without vulnerability is just performance. Let me say that again. Strength without vulnerability is just performance. I had spent my entire life performing strength. I had built walls so high and so thick around my inner world that I genuinely believed nobody could ever see inside them. And I told myself that was good. That was how you survive. That was how you build great things. But what she showed me, quietly, patiently, without ever pushing or demanding, was that those walls were not protecting me. They were isolating me. There is a difference between being alone because you choose solitude and being alone because you have convinced yourself that nobody is capable of understanding you. One is power. The other is fear wearing the costume of power. And I had been afraid to need someone, afraid to admit that I was struggling, afraid to let another person see the parts of me that were uncertain, confused, exhausted, grieving. She walked past every single one of those walls, not by forcing her way through them, but by simply being so genuinely herself, so honest, so warm, so unimpressed by everything the world found impressive about me, that the walls just stopped making sense. Why would I need walls around someone who had never once made me feel that I needed to perform anything? She loved the version of me that was uncertain. She loved the version of me that did not have all the answers. She loved the version of me that sometimes lay awake at night wondering whether I was making the right choices, whether I was being a good enough father, whether I was heading in the right direction. She loved the human being underneath the headlines, and in being loved that way, I had to learn how to be that human being again. I am standing here today not to talk about my personal life for the sake of entertainment. I am standing here because I believe that what I learned in that one quiet moment applies to every single person in this room. Every single one of you is chasing something. Some of you are chasing financial success. Some of you are chasing professional recognition. Some of you are building companies, raising children, pursuing creative dreams, trying to leave some kind of mark on this world before your time here is finished. And I want to ask you the same question she asked me. Are you actually happy? Not performing happiness? Not appearing happy on social media? Not telling yourself you will be happy once you achieve the next milestone? Are you actually happy? Because here is what I have learned, and this is perhaps the most important thing I will say today. No achievement, no matter how extraordinary, can fill the space that genuine human connection is supposed to fill. I have stood in mission control and watched rockets reach orbit. I have driven the first Tesla Roadster. I have seen things that most human beings will never see in their lifetimes. And the moments that have made me feel most alive, most genuinely, deeply, unmistakably alive, have not been those moments. They have been the quiet moments, the conversations that go late into the night, the moments when someone looks at you and sees you, not your title, not your bank account, not your achievements, just you. Those moments are irreplaceable. Those moments are what we are all here for. I think about legacy a lot. It is hard not to when your work involves thinking about the long-term future of humanity, but I have come to believe that legacy is not just about what you build. It is about who you become in the process of building it. Did you become more loving or less loving? Did you become more open or more closed? Did you learn to receive care as gracefully as you learned to give it? Did you allow yourself to be truly known by another human being? Because here is the paradox that I did not understand until she showed it to me. The more vulnerable you allow yourself to be, the stronger you actually become. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is the ultimate courage. It takes no courage to be invincible. Anyone can build walls. Anyone can shut the world out. Anyone can decide that they do not need anyone and that their work is sufficient companionship. It takes enormous, breathtaking, radical courage to say, I see you, I need you, I am not complete without you. She taught me that. One question, 4 words, and a silence that lasted maybe 30 seconds. That was the moment my life changed forever, not because of what she said, but because of what that moment revealed about what I had been missing and what was possible if I was brave enough to stop running and start feeling. Some people ask me, and this is a real question I get, how do you balance an ambition as large as colonizing Mars with something as intimate as a loving relationship? And my answer surprises people. I tell them they are not in conflict. They are, in fact, powered by the same thing. Love, real love, does not diminish ambition. It clarifies it. Before her, I worked because I could not stop, because stopping felt dangerous, because if I stopped moving, I might have to sit with all the things I had been avoiding feeling. After her, I work because I am genuinely inspired, because I have a reason that is rooted not in fear of failure, but in love for what is possible. That is a completely different kind of fuel. Fear-based ambition burns hot and fast. It gets things done, but it burns you down with it. Love-based ambition is sustainable. It is renewable. It does not run out because the source never runs out. She gave me that. And every rocket we launch, every electric vehicle on the road, every neural interface we develop, every step we take toward becoming a multiplanetary species, in some way, carries the energy of that one quiet moment in which a remarkable woman looked at me and asked the question I had never dared ask myself. So here is what I want to leave you with today. You are building things. You are chasing things. You are working and striving and pushing and growing. Do not stop. The world needs your ambition. The world needs your vision. The world needs people who refuse to accept limitations. But as you build your future, please, please, do not make the mistake I made for too many years. Do not sacrifice the intimate for the monumental. Do not become so focused on changing the world that you forget to be changed by the people who love you. Do not be so busy building rockets that you forget to be present in the quiet, unremarkable, irreplaceable moments that make a life worth living. The greatest thing I have ever done is not Tesla. It is not SpaceX. It is not Neuralink. The greatest thing I have ever done is allow myself to be truly loved. And the greatest thing you can do, starting today, starting right now, is open yourself to the same possibility. Because out there, somewhere, there is a person who will ask you a question you have never been asked before, and in the silence that follows, your whole life will change. Thank you.